this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make the Sharma cardigan. This pattern is available to make in 9 different sizes. This pattern is available for free on my blog or available as a premium PDF pattern which can be purchased. As always, I'll leave a link in the description box where you can check out all the links that you may need. For this pattern, I have used King Cole Cotton Soft DK. I have used the colour Iris, but this actually comes in a lot of really beautiful colours. You're going to need 2 crochet hooks. I have used a 4.5mm crochet hook and a 4mm hook for this pattern. However, I am going to show you how to do your gauge swatch to check your gauge, because that's a really important step to do, and you may end up adjusting your hook sizes to meet your specific gauge. You will need a pair of scissors and a darning needle for sewing in your ends. You will need a tape measure when it comes to checking your gauge and assembling the cardigan, and I would also recommend either some stitch markers, or I really like these binding clips for when it comes to sewing your pieces together. So as I said, I'm going to be showing you how to do a gauge swatch first so that you can check your gauge. Within this gauge swatch, I will demonstrate the main stitch patterns, so you can use that information to go over and create the whole piece. But before we get stuck into that, I do want to talk about the construction and how this is made. So we're basically going to make 5 panels. We're going to make the back panel, we're going to make 2 front panels, and then we're going to make 2 more panels, 1 each for the sleeves. And then we're going to seam all of those pieces together, which is really easy to do, before finally adding a border on the front opening and the bottom of the cardigan. So go ahead and grab all your supplies. Don't forget, I'm leaving everything in the description box below, all the links that you might need, so check that out. I would highly recommend that you have either the premium PDF in front of you printed out or on a device, or go ahead and take a look at the blog so that you can follow along with the pattern as we are making it, because this video is designed to go alongside the written pattern. Okay, let's get started. So for this swatch, I'm going to use the lilac yarn just so you get a better view of the stitches, but I highly recommend that you do your swatch just so that we can make sure that our tension is correct. If the tension is not correct, then we're going to need to make adjustments with our hook size in order for the finished garment to fit correctly and to the size that you want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and create our slip knot, and you can do this in whichever method you prefer. And we're going to be using a 4mm hook. Go ahead and insert your crochet hook. And for the swatch, we're going to chain 35. So that's yarn over, pull through, that's 1, yarn over, pull through, that's 2, yarn over 3, yarn over 4, yarn over 5. Go ahead, pause the video, work your chain of 35, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've done your chain, we're going to be working into the back bumps of the chain. So we're going to start off with a treble crochet, which is a US double crochet, and we're going to be working into the 4th chain from the hook. So if we turn the chain over, we see these back bumps. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can kind of see them better on the side just here, poking up. So we're going to yarn over, work into that 4th chain, the back bump of that 4th chain, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops, you'll have 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through those 2 loops on the hook. And we're going to be working 1 treble, which is US double crochet, into the back bump of each chain all the way across. So yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So work your way across, working 1 UK treble, which is US double crochet, in the back bump of each stitch or each chain all the way across. So go ahead, pause the video and meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've worked your way across, you should now have 33 stitches, including the turning chain. The missed chains do count as a stitch. And then we're going to move on to doing row 2. So we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and turn the work. This chain 5 is going to count as a UK treble, which is US double crochet, and a chain 2. So it's counting as a treble and a chain 2, or US double and a chain 2. And whenever we do a chain 5 throughout the pattern, it's going to class as that. So we're going to skip the next stitch. So at the base of this chain 5, that stitch is taken. We're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to double crochet, which is a US single crochet, into that next stitch. So go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. We're then going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet into that next stitch, which is a US single crochet. And then we're going to repeat that again, so that small section again, until we have 2 stitches remaining. So we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we're doing a chain 5 within the work, it's not counting as that treble crochet, it's just when we do it at the beginning. So we have our chain 5, we skip 3 stitches and then double crochet, which is US single crochet into the next stitch, chain 5, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet, which is US single crochet. So go ahead and repeat that chain 5, skip 3, double crochet all the way across until you have 2 stitches remaining, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've just worked my way across. I have 2 stitches remaining, but just remember that one of those stitches is going to be the skip chain. So we have 1 stitch here, and then the next stitch just here. It just looks slightly different, but there are 2 stitches there. We're going to go ahead and chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we're going to work a UK treble crochet, which is a US double crochet, into the top of that turning chain. So we have our stitch here and then our turning chain. Yarn over, go into the top of that turning chain, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, you'll have 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2. And that is the end of row 2. So for row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then we're going to work a double crochet, which is a US single crochet, into that very first stitch. So into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to skip this first chain space just here, which is technically the chain 2 chain space. And then we're going to work a series of stitches into this next chain 5 space. So we're going to work 3 treble crochets, which is US double crochet. That's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 1 and work 3 more treble crochets, which is US double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And that is creating our fan or shell in that chain 5 space. We're going to then double crochet, which is US single crochet, into the next chain 5 space, and that anchors that shell down. And then we're going to repeat that again. So we're going to work that series of stitches into the next chain 5 space. So straight into there with a treble crochet, US double, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1 and 3 more trebles, which is US doubles, 1, 2, 3. Anchor that down into the next chain 5 space with a double crochet, US single crochet, and you're going to repeat that pattern, repeat all the way across. So creating those 3 trebles, chain 1, 3 trebles, and then double crochet into the next stitch, which in US terms is 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles, and a single crochet into the next stitch. So go ahead, repeat that all the way across, and then meet me back when you're about to place your last double crochet, because that is going to sit slightly differently at the end just here. So pause the video and meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so this last double crochet of this repeat is going to go into the top of the chain 3. So remember, this chain 5 counts as a treble and a chain 2. So the chain 3 is essentially the top of the treble. So we're going to go into that 3rd chain from the bottom with a double crochet to finish off that row. So now we're going to move on to row 4. And for row 4, we're going to begin by chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and turn the work. This counts as a treble crochet, which is a US double crochet, and a chain 3. So once we've done that chain 6, we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work our double crochet, which is a US single crochet, into this chain 1 space. So working into that space, and that double crochet is the first of our pattern repeats. So we have double crochet, US single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, and then this double crochet that's in the center just here, we're going to work a treble crochet into there. So yarn over into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to chain 3, skip 3 stitches, and then the pattern repeat starts again. So double crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, and treble crochet into that double crochet from the previous row. So that's a double crochet in US terms into the single crochet from the previous row. Chain 3, skip 3 stitches, and double crochet into the chain 1 space, which is US single crochet, and then chain 3, skip 3 stitches, treble crochet into the double crochet from the previous row, chain 3, double crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 3, and then your final treble crochet, which is your US double crochet, going to go into this last stitch just here. So yarn over into the top of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So we're essentially just creating a bridge all the way across into these chain spaces. So we're now going to move on to row 5. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work. This chain 3 counts as a treble, which is US double crochet here and throughout. We're going to work 3 trebles into this chain space. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to work a treble crochet into the next stitch. So it's this double crochet, US single crochet from the previous row, and we're going to repeat that all the way across. So 3 trebles into the chain space, 1, 2, and 3, and treble into the next stitch. In this case, it's the treble from the previous row. And then again, 3 trebles, which is US doubles into the chain space, 2, and 3, and treble, which is US double, into the next stitch. So you're going to work that all the way across and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, I just wanted to join you back for this very last stitch to show you where the stitch placement is going to go. Remember that this one, the chain from the previous row, is a chain 6. So we want to be working into the 3rd chain from the bottom, because that counts as a treble, and we work our final stitch into there. So at this point we want to be repeating this pattern repeat. So you want to go ahead and repeat rows 2 to 5 twice more, and then you'll have your swatch. So go ahead, rewind the video if you need to, repeat rows 2 to 5 twice more, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now you have your swatch, and the overall swatch will be around 6.5 inches by 5.5 inches, thereabouts. But we want to make sure that we are counting our stitches in the pattern itself. That's why we make our swatch slightly bigger. So we're going to be measuring within a 4-inch square. So we want to make sure, so if I measure along this row here, we want to make sure that we're choosing one of the stitches further away from the edge. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to start at the gap of, or at the end of this stitch, in that gap there. And we want to measure all the way and make sure that it ends at the end of this stitch. And then we want to count and make sure that we have 20 stitches in there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So we have 20 stitches, which is what we want. And we want to have 9 rows. So what I like to do for my rows is actually count it from the top of this row, so the top of the shell. And if we have a think or have a look at where that row ends, it's just up there. And then we want to count the rows. So this is the bottom of this row, which is here. We have 1, and then these chains are the second row, so that's 2, 3, these chains are 4, 5, which is the shells, chains, which is 6, we have a row, which is 7, more chains, which is 8, and then shells, which is 9. So we have 9 rows and 20 stitches, so my gauge is correct. Now, if you find that you have too many stitches, then you will want to go up either half a hook size or a full hook size. I would recommend that you do your swatch again just to make sure that that is working correctly. If you have not enough stitches, then you will want to go down half a hook size or a full hook size. So have a play around with your swatch. You want to make sure that you are getting the right amount of stitches. If your rows are off, then I highly recommend that you watch this video just here, which is all about the golden loop and how to adjust the height of your stitches. So once you know which hook size that you're using, make a note of those. So I'm using the 4mm, and then I'm going to go up half a hook size for some of the stitches. So we have 4 and 4.5. If you need to go down half a hook size or a full hook size, just make sure that whatever your smallest size is, you have half a hook size bigger for your other hook. So now you're going to move on to doing your back panels. And this pattern comes in 9 different sizes. So it's going to go from extra small right through to 5X. So go ahead and take a look at the written pattern to see how many you need to chain and how many rows you need to do. I will put it on the screen just here to get you started, but you will need to refer to the written pattern to get the additional details. So go ahead, work your back panel, and when you fasten off, you want to leave a long tail end, which is the width of your back panel for sewing later. And then once you've done that, you want to come back and I'll show you how to do the front panels. Now you've done your back panel, we'll move on to doing the front panels, and depending on the size that you're working on will depend on what you do here. If you are working on the large, the XL, the 2X or the 5X, then your panels are going to be exactly the same as this, so that you can use this stitch repeat and just take a look at the sizes at the initial chain that you need to do for this panel. However, if you are doing the extra small, small, medium, 3X or 4X, we are going to be doing 2 panels, panel A and panel B, because we are going to end or begin the panels with a half shell. So I'm going to show you how to do those now. I'll show you the stitch repeat and then you can just repeat that for panel A and then the stitch repeat for panel B. So go ahead and grab your hook if you're doing extra small, small, medium, 3X or 4X, and I'll demonstrate what to do now. But any of the other sizes, you can repeat this panel. You're just going to be doing smaller panels. Okay, so for your panel A, you're going to chain the amount of stitches that is directed in the pattern for your size, and then you're going to repeat row 1 to 2 of your back panel. So we'll have done these chain 5s just here. Then for row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn the work. We're going to double crochet into that very first stitch, which is US single crochet, and then we're going to do a pattern repeat. So we're going to do 3 treble crochets, which is US double crochets, into that chain 5 space. So this is all exactly the same as what we had done previously for the back panel. Chain 1 and those 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, and then double crochet into that next stitch, and then 3 trebles, 3, chain 1, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet into that next stitch. And you're going to do that all the way across until you have 1 chain space remaining. So go ahead, work your way across until you have 1 chain space remaining, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've worked my way across. I have that 1 chain space remaining. I'm going to work 3 treble crochets in that last chain space, which is a US double crochet, 2 and 3, and then I'm going to double crochet into the 3rd chain of the chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, double crochet into that stitch, and that is the end of that row. We'll then move on to row 4. So we're going to chain 1, turn the work. We're going to double crochet into that first stitch. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, and then treble crochet into that double crochet from the previous row. So that's a US double crochet into a US single crochet, chain 3, skip 3 stitches, and work a double crochet, US single crochet. So this is just exactly the same as what we were doing before. Chain 3, treble crochet into that next stitch, chain 3, skip 3 stitches, double crochet, chain 3, skip 3 stitches, treble crochet all the way across, chain 3, skip 3 stitches, double crochet, and chain 3, skip 3 stitches and treble crochet into that last stitch. So then we're going to move on to row 5. We're going to chain 3, which counts as a UK treble, US double crochet, and just as we did before, we're going to work 3 trebles, US doubles, into that chain space, and then a treble, US double into the next stitch all the way across. So the only difference with this panel is that when we're doing our shells, we're ending on the 3 trebles into that stitch, into that chain space with a double crochet. So I'll just go ahead and finish this last row. So pause the video and then meet me back in just a moment. Okay, so this is panel A. What you now need to do is repeat row 2 to 5 for the amount of rows suggested in the pattern. And then once you've done panel A, meet me back for panel B. Okay, so for panel B, we're doing exactly the same as panel A for the first 2 rows, which was to repeat the row 1 and 2 of the back panel. And really the difference with this panel is instead of finishing on the half shell, we're going to start on the half shell. So we're going to chain 1 and double crochet into that very first stitch. And then we're going to work 3 trebles into the first chain space. So that's US double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And then we have a pattern repeat, so we're going to double crochet into the next chain 5 space and then work that series of stitches, which is 3 trebles, US double crochets, 2 and 3, chain 1 and 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. And then do that pattern repeat again, double crochet into the next stitch and then work that shell, which is 3 trebles, US double crochets, chain 1 and 3 trebles. Double crochet into the next stitch. We'll work our last shell, 3 trebles, chain 1 and 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, and our last double crochet, which is a US single crochet, will go into the 3rd chain of that chain 5. So if I lay this down now, we have our half shell just here. So I'll finish off this pattern repeat. We're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double crochet into that first chain 1 space, sound bite. Chain 6, chain 3, skip 3 stitches and treble, which is US double crochet, chain 3, miss 3 stitches and double crochet, which is US single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 3, treble crochet, which is US double, and chain 3, double crochet, which is US single, and then I just have a couple more here, skipping those 3 stitches. Hopefully you should be used to this stitch repeat by now, but then we're going to do our last double crochet, which is single crochet in the US in that very last stitch, and then our final row 5, chain 3, turn the work and work 3 trebles into the chain space, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 treble into the next stitch, and you'll work that all the way across. So I'll just go ahead and do that and meet you back in a moment. Okay, so in this panel B you have your shells which are facing this side of the work, and what having panel A and panel B will do is it will actually make it so that the same side of the work is facing, because the other side of the work will look slightly flatter, your stitches will look a little bit different, and we want to have the same side of the work facing when we construct everything. So now we're going to move on to making the sleeves, which are actually made in one flat panel. And these panels are going to be exactly the same as your back panels. We're not going to be doing any half shells, so it is just a full panel. So what you need to do for this section is decide on the arm depth that you want to do, and this might be slightly different to the actual pattern that you've been following already. You can go ahead and look at the written instructions to see what you want your arm depth to be, because this could be personal preference, but you can mix this up at this stage if you want to. Say for example, if you find that you have larger arms, or you like your sleeves to be a little bit larger, then you might want to use the instructions for the size larger than you are, or vice versa. If you like them smaller, you have smaller arms, then you might want to go a little bit lower, or you might just want to stick with the instructions for your size. But I'm just going to leave on the screen now the amount that you want to chain for your size, and then go ahead and take a look at the pattern for the amount of rows that you need to do. Then meet me back once you're ready, because I'll then show you how we're going to construct everything to make it into the cardigan like this. So now that you have all 5 of your pieces done, you'll have your back panel, 2 front panels, and then also 2 arm panels. So I've just folded mine over like this. I'm going to pop my arm panels aside for now, and concentrate on the back panel and the 2 front panels, because we're going to be doing the shoulder seams first. So what we want to do is we want to determine the right side and the wrong side of the work. So if we take a look at the back panel, your tail end, if you have the right side facing you, your tail end will be on the bottom left if you're right-handed, and bottom right if you're left-handed. So I'm just going to leave this with the right side facing me so that I can take the front panel and determine if I have the right side or the wrong side facing me. When it's this side, this is the right side facing. So I'm going to flip this round so we can put both right sides facing each other. And then also for this panel, I need to decide which side it needs to go. And because this is the side with the half shells, it needs to go this side so that the half shells are in the middle. If your size doesn't have half shells, then it doesn't matter. But when we line up our work, we should find that our shells line up nice and neatly. And then we can take the other one. This one's a little bit easier because we just want to take the side with the half shells and place it down the other side. So you can use your tail ends if you want to, or you can connect another piece of yarn. It's totally up to you. I have a couple of tail ends here. I prefer to work from the outside in, so I'm going to actually use this tail end, which is actually connected to the back for this one, and then I will use this tail end for the opposite side. But what we want to do here is we want to take some clips or stitch markers, and you just want to pop this into place. I'm going to put this down the edge, this first one, just to keep that in line, and then place some clips all the way across, making sure that I'm lining everything up. And by making sure you're lining up will just help when it comes to actually sewing these pieces together. So I'm just going to pop this one out the way for now, just so that I can work on this piece. Now I'm just going to turn mine around so that I can take my darning needle and thread it up. And we're just going to use whip stitch. If you are using an extra strand of yarn, do it around 3 lengths, 1.5 to 3 lengths of your work or the area that you need to work on as a general rule. Don't know what that was on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our darning needle and go through the very first stitch of the back panel. And then we want to find the top of the stitch from the other panel, which is actually a chain 3. So I'm just going to work into the top of that chain 3, working through both thicknesses and pulling all the way through. And then I'm going to find the next stitch, top of the stitch, and then the corresponding stitch on the other panel and pull all the way through. And I'm just going to work my way all the way across, working through each corresponding stitch, making sure that it's lining up correctly, that we're not missing any stitches. It's worth taking your time with this, stopping and checking. You can move your stitch markers out the way as you're working, just to take out any bulk. And I'm just going to do this all the way across until I get to the last stitch of the front panel, which is the shortest panel. So go ahead, pause the video, work that whip stitch across, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've just worked my way across. I'm just going to put one extra stitch in that last stitch, and then you can go ahead and fasten off. And then you would just have your tail end to weave in. So remembering that you've got the wrong side of the work facing you now, you could weave that tail end in and out. I use the rule of 3 to go back and forth, and then back once more, trying to work through different fibres, and then you can fasten off that, and then you can snip off the excess. Then what you want to do is get your second panel into place and then work exactly the same with the other side. So go ahead and do that and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now you have your front panels connected to your back panel. It's now time to add your sleeves. So when it comes to the sleeves, what you want to make sure that you're doing is that you are having your shells facing upwards. So the panel that we made, this is the bottom, this is the top, and this is the right side facing, and this is the wrong side facing. So we're going to have the wrong side facing up, but we also want to make sure that our shells are facing towards the main panel, because as it sits on our arms and as we're wearing it, we want those shells to be upwards rather than facing down. It just has a better visual as you are wearing it. And also what we want to do here is we want to measure the midpoint of our work. So for this panel, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shells. So we can find the center of those shells and line that up to the shoulder seam. So you want to find your central point. I'm just going to pinch that together and just turn this around just to make it a little bit easier. So just to clarify here, we want to have the right sides of the work facing each other. So I have the wrong side of the work here, but then the bottom one, the right side of the work is facing. And then we're just going to line this up so that the center of this piece is in line with the seam. So I'm just going to pop that into place just here. And then what we want to do is we want to thread up our darning needle. This tail end might be a little bit short to get me across the whole of the way, but that's okay. We can add some more. But we don't necessarily have anything to line this up against. We just want to be making sure that as we're doing this, that it's sitting evenly each side. So I'm just going to pull that out slightly, not too much because you don't want it to pucker as you are wearing it. Just double check where I did that measurement from. Oh, excuse my stomach if you just heard my stomach grumble then. There we go. So I'm just going to place them there. I might actually pop just a few more clips in between just to keep this in position. Okay, so I have my darning needle. I'm just going to, if I just move this across a tiny bit, I'm going to go through that very first stitch of the arm and then just find a place to pop that into on the main body, and then also go into the next stitch. We're just using whip stitch again and go through a space which lines up, and we're just going to do this all the way across. And as you're doing this, you just want to stop and just check the placement, make sure it's sitting nicely, that it's not puckering up too much. And you're going to do this all the way across. Until you get to the other side. So go ahead, pause the video, take your time with it. As I say, I'm going to need to add some more yarn, so I will just fasten this off and add some more when I get to that point. But you want to work your way across, lining it up and making sure that it's not pulling too much, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now that you've worked your way across, I would recommend that you put a knot in your work, or you could just pop like don't knot it off yet, and just pop a clip, and then leave that. Do not fasten this in yet, or sew in your tail ends, because you want to check what your work is looking like and making sure that the other side goes on correctly before you actually sew this in, because otherwise if you need to alter it and undo it, then it's going to be a bit more work. So don't sew in your ends just yet. You now want to go ahead and do exactly the same on the other sleeve, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so that's my second side done. I'm just going to place this so that the right side is facing me, and then you can just pinch at your shoulder seams and then fold over, and now you can see your cardigan shape coming to life. So what we want to do now is just place this over you, over your shoulders, and just double check that it's fitting okay. You could pop a couple of clips under the arms and on the seams, just to kind of try out how it's feeling, and making sure that everything is okay, including your seams. You can make adjustments if needed, but now would be a really good time just to try it on before we sew up the edge seams. So we'll be sewing up this edge just here, and then also down the arm. So go ahead, try it on. Why don't you snap a photo while you're at it and share it in the Bella Coco Patterns collections and Cal groups, so that we can see your progress, because this is the really exciting part where you can actually really see it taking shape. Okay, so once you've tried this on and you feel happy to move ahead to the seams, I would just recommend that you block your work at this point, because it's really easy to just pull, to just open this out and block it as a whole. Steam it, just give it a bit of a stretch, and then we can come and do the seams down the edges. That way we're not pulling against the seam when we are trying to block the work. So the best way that I feel is to use steam block. So place this on a mat, stretch it out, and use a handheld steamer and let it dry, and then you can come back and we'll do the seaming up the edges. So I've now blocked my work, and I'm going to prepare my work so that I can sew up the side seam. You still want to have the wrong side facing out. So again, I'm just going to use my clips to line up the edges, and this is easier because you can see the pattern matches up as we go upwards towards the underarm, and then we can match up to make our sleeve line up as well. So I'm just going to pop a few of those in there, one at the end, and we're going to use whip stitch again. So if I start with this one side, now what I like to do is just do two smaller pieces of yarn. So I'll kind of do like 3 times the length of this, and then I'll add another piece when it comes to the arm, just because I find that it just gets in a bit of a tangle if you make your yarn, your thread too long. So I'm just going to line up this very first bottom section with the very bottom. So this bit here is actually the chain 3, the missed 3 chains. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to go into the bottom there and pull that through. I'm just going to pop a little knot in there just to secure, and then we can sew those in shortly, the tail end. And then I'm just going to whip stitch all the way up just taking my time with it, trying not to make the gaps in between too spacious. So maybe 2 stitches within that first row end. These tail ends get a little bit caught in when you first start. And then I'm going to go through the stitches when we get to this section here where there's a chain space. I'm going to actually go through the stitches instead. I just feel like it makes it a bit more secure, and you can't see the stitches from the right side. So I'm just going to work my way all the way up, and then when it gets to the arm, I'm just going to continue to do the same. I just need to rotate my work a little bit to continue working down the arm. And when you get to the end, you're going to fasten off. Again, I would just not sew in your ends just yet, just in case. And then once you've done both sides and you're happy, then you can go ahead and sew in your ends. So go ahead, pause the video, work up to the underarm, and then just continue to work your way down until you get to the hand opening. Do both sides and then meet me back once you're ready. So now we're going to work on the front opening border. So we're going to be working from the bottom all the way up to the neckline, across the neckline and down again. And when we build on the border, we are actually going to turn the work and then work back the other way, etc. Now, because some of your sizes, or some of the sizes for this, have the half shells down the centre and then some of them don't, I will obviously show you what we're going to do when we're working down the half shells, but then also give you instructions for what to do when working down a row end with just full shells, because it will be slightly different. You'll have a double crochet end, whereas here we don't. So we're going to take a 4.5mm crochet hook. You will have the right side of the work facing, so make sure that you've turned it out ready. You're going to go ahead and make a slip knot, and we're going to join in the first stitch at the first row end of the bottom of the work. So here's the first stitch, here's the first row end, and we're going to go almost like we're working into the foundation chain just there. So we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to join using a standing double crochet. So insert the hook, you have the working loop on your hook, and then also the hook through the stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull through. You'll have 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through both loops, and that creates a standing double crochet, which is a standing single crochet in US terms. So what we're going to do here is we're simply going to work 2 double crochets in each row end to the neckline. So we have a row end here, we have this chain space here, which is a row end, another row end, and then this chain space, which is a row end. So I'll work another double crochet, which is US single crochet, into that same row end. Then we'll move across and work 2 into there, and then move across and work 2 into that row end, and just place those stitches wherever you feel they sit correctly, and then 2 into the next row end and all the way up. The difference that you will have when you have full, you don't end on a half shell, is that you will have this row end here. So if we forget these stitches, this is a double crochet row end. So you'll be working 2 double crochets into each row end, but when you get to this one here, which is the shell row end, you're just going to work 1 double crochet into that row end just there. So go ahead, pause the video, work 2 double crochets into each row end, unless you have a double crochet row end, which is a single crochet, row end in US terms. In that case, you would just work 1 into those row ends. So it should sit all nice and neatly as you work your way up. Go ahead, work your way up to the neckline where the shoulder seam is, and I'll show you how to continue. So I've just worked my way across that first edge. I'm now at the shoulder seam, and I'm just going to rotate my work slightly. And then when we get to the shoulder seam, just here, I've made sure that I've worked those 2 UK double crochets, which is single crochets in US. In that last row end, we have our shoulder seam here, and then I'm just going to work into each stitch all the way across the neckline. So this is pretty easy. 1 stitch in each stitch all the way across. And then once you get to the other shoulder seam, you're simply going to do the same all the way down, working those 2 double crochets, US single crochets in each row end, apart from if you are working on a size that has that double crochet row end US single crochet. You're just going to work 1 stitch into there. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way all the way around until you get down to the bottom of the other side of the front opening. And then once you're there, we're going to turn the work and continue our next row. So go ahead, pause the video, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've now worked down this second size, and I just want to point out that I've placed my last stitch, instead of around the post, I've just gone into the base of the chain. It just helps to secure that stitch in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the work, and we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're going to work a half treble slip stitch, which is half double slip stitch, into each stitch all the way around. So for a half treble slip stitch, we're going to yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, and then instead of yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops on the hook, you're just going to pull this first loop through the 2 loops. Now the way that I find this easier to do is just to pull turn my hook backwards and then pull through that way. So I'll show you that again. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. Instead of yarning over, we're just going to pull that first loop through those 2 loops. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and pull that first loop through those next 2 loops. So as I say, I find this easier to tilt my hook backwards to bring it through the stitch, just because otherwise when you do this, because the second loop is sat slightly backwards, it just makes it harder to pull it through. So you're going to work one of these half treble slip stitches, which is half double slip stitch in US terms, in each stitch all the way around. So you'll get all the way around back to the other side. Pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've just finished row 2. We're now going to do row 3, which is exactly the same as row 2. So we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and then we're going to work one of those half treble slip stitches, which is half double slip stitch, into each stitch all the way around. So just 1 stitch into each stitch. Go ahead, pause the video, work that all the way around to the other side, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've just worked my way and done that 3rd row. Now at this point we're ready to move on to the bottom border. However, if you feel like you want your front opening to have a bigger border, then you can go ahead and add another 2 rows or however many you want you want to do it in a multiple of 2. I wouldn't go too thick with this just because that will alter how it sits around the neck, but maybe if you just wanted to add another 2 rows of that, then that is totally up to you. But for now, I'm going to leave mine like this, as this is what it is in the pattern, but we're now going to move on to doing the bottom border. So if I just rotate the work so that the bottom of the work is facing upwards, you don't actually need to fasten off your work at the end of the front opening, the final row of the front opening. If you don't want to, we can actually go straight into working the bottom border, because we are just going to be working slip stitches into each stitch across. So what we want to do is find the first row end and place our hook into there and yarn over and pull through the loop that's on the hook, and then find the next row end and do the same, working fairly loosely with this. We don't want to make it too tight. And then once you've been down those first few row ends, you will find that you have the underside of the foundation chain, which you can just work 1 slip stitch into all the way across. So because we worked into the back bump when we started the foundation chain, you'll find that it's quite easy to locate those stitches in order to get these stitches into. So work your way all the way across. You do want to skip the seams once you get to the seams, and then meet me back once you get to this end section, and I'll just show you how to finish off the end, because we'll go from working into the stitches to the row ends. So work your way up to there and meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I've just worked those slip stitches all the way across, and then I'm just going to make sure that I place them into the row ends just here, and then I'm going to fasten off and then pull out that tail end, and then all you have left to do is sew in any leftover tail ends, and then congratulations, you've made your Sharma cardigan. If you have made this and you've got to this point, then please do make sure that you are tagging me and sharing on social media. I would absolutely love to see your progress and your finished makes. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And if you like this video, then I think you might also like this one too.